Imagine this, it's 66 million years ago. You're standing in a prehistoric forest and suddenly the ground shakes. A giant shadow looms over you. You look up and there it is, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Sharp teeth, massive jaws, eyes locked on you. For decades, T-Rex has been called the king of the dinosaurs. But what if I told you, it wasn't the first king? What if there were creatures far more terrifying, and they ruled the planet millions of years before T-Rex ever existed? Hey fellas, how you doing? Imagine this. The story of dinosaurs is not just T-Rex chomping everything in sight. That's the Hollywood version. The real story is bigger, darker, and way older. Because long before T-Rex was even born, there were other apex predators that dominated Earth. And some of them made T-Rex look small. Here's the first shocking fact. T-Rex lived only in the last 2 million years of the dinosaur age. Dinosaurs walked the Earth for about 165 million years total. That means T-Rex was like the final chapter in a giant book. So, the real question is, who ruled before that? Who were the monsters at the top, when T-Rex didn't even exist yet? Let's travel back. Not 66 million years ago. Let's go back over 200 million years. The time when the world looked nothing like it does today. The continents were all stuck together in one giant landmass called Pangaea. No USA. No Africa. No Europe. Just one supercontinent surrounded by endless ocean. And in this strange, hot, swampy world, dinosaurs were only just starting to appear. And here's the surprising twist. Back then, T-Rex's ancestors weren't even kings. They were tiny. No bigger than a chicken. Yes, you heard me right. The ancestors of the so-called king of the dinosaurs were chicken-sized animals scurrying in the underbrush, hiding from predators. So who were the real kings? The first rulers weren't even dinosaurs. They were terrifying reptiles called archosaurs. Creatures with crocodile-like jaws, armored skin, and some grew to lengths of 30 feet. They hunted on land and in the water, and they killed anything smaller than them. For millions of years, these were the top predators. But evolution is full of surprises. Slowly, dinosaurs grew bigger, smarter, and faster. And soon, new monsters appeared that would rule for tens of millions of years before T-Rex. One of the earliest was Allosaurus. Living about 150 million years ago, this predator grew up to 40 feet long. It was lighter and faster than T-Rex, with claws built for slashing and jaws that could crush bone. In fact, scientists call it the lion of the Jurassic because it ruled its ecosystem the way lions rule Africa today. But here's the jaw-dropping fact. Allosaurus ruled the Earth for over 10 million years, 5 times longer than T-Rex existed. So, in the timeline of history, Allosaurus had a much longer reign. And just when you think that's wild, wait until you hear about another predator, one that made even Allosaurus look like prey. Because before T-Rex, there was Giganotosaurus. So we left off with Allosaurus, the lion of the Jurassic. But that was only the beginning. Fast forward another 40 million years and we arrive in South America about 98 million years ago. The world is hotter, wetter, and covered with dense forests and vast river systems. This is where the real giant makes its entrance. Meet Giganotosaurus, a predator so huge it makes T-Rex look like its younger cousin. Here's the first shocking fact. Giganotosaurus could grow up to 43 feet long, almost the length of a school bus and weigh over 8 tons. That's nearly as heavy as 2 African elephants. And unlike T-Rex, which had short, stubby arms, Giganotosaurus had longer arms with 3 sharp claws, making it deadlier in close combat. But size alone didn't make it king. What truly made Giganotosaurus terrifying was its speed. Despite weighing tons, scientists believe it could sprint up to 30 miles per hour. Imagine a school bus-sized killer chasing you faster than most humans can run. Yeah, you wouldn't stand a chance. Now let's pause for a second and compare it to T-Rex. T-Rex is famous for having the strongest bite force of any land animal ever, nearly 12,800 pounds of pressure. That's like a truck smashing down on you. Giganotosaurus didn't bite that hard. But it didn't need to. Instead, it hunted with strategy. Its jaws were lined with serrated teeth, each up to 8 inches long like steak knives. Instead of crushing bones, Giganotosaurus would slice through flesh, tearing its prey apart piece by piece. And what did it hunt? Not small dinosaurs. No. Giganotosaurus hunted the biggest prey around, Argentinosaurus. This was a dinosaur over 100 feet long and 70 tons in weight. Imagine trying to take down something bigger than a blue whale, on land. To do that, Giganotosaurus likely hunted in packs. Yes, scientists believe these giants teamed up like lions, working together to bring down massive plant eaters. Think about that, a group of 40-foot monsters hunting as a team. No wonder nothing else stood a chance. But here's the wild twist: Giganotosaurus wasn't alone. Around the same time, other megapredators rose across the world. In Africa there was Carcharodontosaurus, another beast over 40 feet long with jaws like a shark. And in the rivers of what is now North Africa lived Spinosaurus, the largest carnivorous dinosaur ever discovered. With its crocodile snout and sail-like spine, Spinosaurus grew up to 50 feet long. That's bigger than T-Rex, Giganotosaurus, and Allosaurus. So here's the shocking truth. For millions of years T-Rex wasn't even close to being the largest predator on Earth. Spinosaurus and Giganotosaurus had that crown long before it arrived. But if these giants were so powerful, why aren't they remembered as the kings of dinosaurs like T-Rex is today? Here's the cliffhanger. Their downfall was tied to one of the most mysterious events in Earth's history: mass extinction waves that kept wiping out the rulers one after another. Alright, so far we've seen Allosaurus, Giganotosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, and even Spinosaurus, predators that were bigger, older, and in many ways more terrifying than T-Rex. But here's the question. If they were so powerful, why aren't they remembered as the kings of dinosaurs today? The answer is simple, but brutal: extinction. See, Earth's history is not one smooth timeline. It's full of disasters. Volcanic eruptions, giant asteroids, sudden climate shifts. These weren't small events. They were world-ending resets. And every time one of these disasters struck, the rulers at the top, the kings, were the first to go. Here's a fact that will blow your mind. Over 99% of all species that have ever lived on Earth are now extinct. Every few million years it's like the planet hits the reset button. Take Spinosaurus, for example. Around 95 million years ago, it was the largest predator alive. But then, global sea levels rose, rivers shifted, and ecosystems collapsed. Fish populations, Spinosaurus' main food, dropped dramatically. And just like that, the biggest hunter of them all vanished from history. Or look at Giganotosaurus. It lived around 98 million years ago, but after only a few million years at the top, it too disappeared. The reasons are still debated, but many scientists believe sudden climate changes, volcanic eruptions, and food shortages wiped it out. Here's the pattern. Every time a king rose, it didn't last forever. The environment would change, prey would die off, and the apex predators, who needed the most food, were always the first to starve. Now here's where it gets interesting. When these giants vanished, they left behind gaps in the ecosystem. And who filled those gaps? Smaller, faster, more adaptable predators. Dinosaurs that weren't the biggest but could survive. And this is where the ancestors of T-Rex come into play. For tens of millions of years they weren't kings. They were survivors. While the giant hunters kept getting wiped out, the smaller, smarter predators lived on generation after generation. Here's a fact you probably didn't know. T-Rex's family line started over 100 million years before T-Rex itself. They began as small, feathered predators, some no bigger than turkeys. They weren't flashy. They weren't kings. But they survived. And survival is the one trait that outlives everything else. Fast forward through time, extinction after extinction, and something fascinating happens. By around 70 million years ago, almost all the giant rivals, Spinosaurus, Giganotosaurus, Carcharodontosaurus, were gone. And in their place in North America, a new predator slowly grew larger, stronger, and smarter with each generation. That predator was the ancestor of T-Rex. But the rise of T-Rex wasn't just about survival. It was about evolution pushing the limits of what a predator could be. Stronger jaws, sharper senses, bigger bodies. Until finally, about 66 million years ago, the true Tyrannosaurus Rex appeared, the last and most powerful of its kind. But here's the twist. Even though it was the king of its time, T-Rex's rule was incredibly short. Only about 2 million years. Compare that to Allosaurus, which ruled for over 10 million years, or Spinosaurus, which lasted nearly 5 million. So why does T-Rex get remembered as the king, when others ruled longer and grew larger? That answer has more to do with us humans than with the dinosaurs themselves. So here we are, after millions of years of extinction waves, evolutionary experiments, and countless fallen rulers, the Tyrannosaurus Rex finally arrives on the scene, around 66 million years ago. It's massive, terrifying, and unlike anything that came before it. But here's the big question. Why do we humans remember T-Rex as the king when history is full of predators just as big, or even bigger? The truth is, T-Rex became a king not only in nature but also in our imagination. Let's start with the science. T-Rex had some very real advantages over its predecessors. For one, it had the strongest bite force of any land animal in history, nearly 13,000 pounds of pressure. That's more than double the bite of a great white shark. It could literally crush the bones of its prey like dry twigs. But it wasn't just muscle. T-Rex also had one of the most advanced brains of any predator. Its sense of smell was so powerful, scientists compare it to a bloodhound. It could sniff out prey from miles away. And its eyesight? Almost like an eagle's, it could track movement better than nearly any other dinosaur. Combine this with a body weighing nearly 9 tons and standing 20 feet tall, and you have a predator built to dominate. Here's the wild part. T-Rex was not a fast runner. It probably maxed out at around 12 miles per hour. But it didn't need to run. Why? Because it was an ambush hunter. It would lurk, wait, and then strike with terrifying precision. Imagine standing in a forest, hearing branches snap, and suddenly a 40-foot monster lunges at you. That was T-Rex's strategy, and it worked. But still, Spinosaurus was bigger. Giganotosaurus was faster. Allosaurus ruled longer. So why do we call T-Rex the king? Here's the twist. It's because we found it. T-Rex fossils were first discovered in the early 1900s in North America, at a time when dinosaurs were just starting to capture the public imagination. Newspapers called it the tyrant lizard king. Museums displayed its massive skeletons, and people were blown away by its sheer size. Unlike many other predators, T-Rex was discovered early, studied heavily, and became a superstar of science. And then came Hollywood. Movies like King Kong, Jurassic Park, and endless documentaries turned T-Rex into the ultimate monster. It wasn't just a dinosaur anymore, it was a symbol of power, terror, and dominance. Kids grew up with toy T-Rexes. Adults saw it on screen. And slowly, the legend of T-Rex grew until it was cemented in culture as the one true king. But here's the uncomfortable truth. T-Rex's life wasn't a royal fantasy. It was brutal. Fossil evidence shows broken bones, bite marks from other T-Rexes, and signs of infections. These monsters fought each other constantly, sometimes even eating their own kind. Being king meant living a life of violence, pain, and survival. And then, just like every ruler before it, T-Rex faced the one enemy it couldn't beat. Around 66 million years ago, a giant asteroid slammed into Earth, ending the age of the dinosaurs in one apocalyptic moment. But T-Rex's story didn't end there. Because while the dinosaurs vanished, the legend of T-Rex lived on, carried by us humans as the king of a world long gone. So here we are. We've traveled back millions of years, walked alongside monsters bigger than buses, and watched kings rise and fall. Now it's time to answer the big question. Who was the real king before T-Rex? The answer depends on what you mean by king. If we measure by size, then the crown goes to Spinosaurus. At up to 50 feet long, it was the largest carnivorous dinosaur to ever live. Bigger than T-Rex. Bigger than Giganotosaurus. A half-crocodile, half-dinosaur hybrid that stalked rivers like a nightmare. If size alone made you king, Spinosaurus wins hands down. But if we measure by fear and dominance, then it's hard to ignore Giganotosaurus. This beast ruled the forests of South America, taking down prey that no predator should have been able to kill. Imagine hunting an animal the size of a skyscraper. That's what Giganotosaurus did. Its reign was short but terrifying. And if we measure by longevity, then the winner is Allosaurus. For over 10 million years, it ruled as the top predator of the Jurassic. Longer than T-Rex ever lasted. It was smaller, sure, but sometimes a true king isn't about being the biggest. It's about staying in power the longest. So who was the real king? The truth is, there wasn't just one. The crown of dinosaurs changed hands again and again, from Allosaurus, to Spinosaurus, to Giganotosaurus, until finally T-Rex had its brief moment in the spotlight. Each one was king of its time. Each one ruled until nature took the crown away. And maybe that's the most important lesson of all. Because kings, whether they're dinosaurs, humans, or anything else, don't last forever. Power always fades. Every apex predator eventually meets something bigger, stronger, or deadlier. Or sometimes, like in the case of the dinosaurs, the universe itself hits reset with an asteroid. But here's what makes T-Rex different. It didn't just live in the past. It lives in our imagination. It's the king that we chose to remember. The king that still roars in movies, in books, in our toys, in our dreams. And that's why, even though there were kings before it, Tyrannosaurus Rex will always be the one true ruler in our eyes. Maybe that's the ultimate victory. Not just ruling the earth, but ruling memory itself.